Welcome to Ross County FC TV on another bumper day of Scottish Premiership action. After conquering St Johnstone in Perth, the Staggies welcome Aberdeen to the Highlands, fresh from their valiant but fruitless Europa League exploits. All the drama and discussion, the thrills and spills coming your way over the next few hours as County look to inflict a third straight defeat on the Dons and continue cementing their place in the top half of the table. Good afternoon from sunny Dingwall on matchday 9 of the Scottish Premiership campaign. Another of the league's heavyweights rumbling into the Highlands today in the form of Aberdeen. And to guide you through the action here on RCFCTV, we've gathered a couple of the heavyweights of the Scottish punditry scene. The former County and Inverness midfielder Richie Hartz, and of course RCFCTV's latest lead commentator, Mr Stephen Craigan. Welcome, guys.
Good afternoon.
Richie, I'll come to you first. Just tell us a bit about what you've been up to the last week while. You've recently joined the coaching staff at Brora. How's that been, and what's it been like in such challenging times for so many of the smaller teams in Scotland?
Yeah, firstly, it's been great to be back involved with the club, who has been a big part of my career, and it's something that had been in the pipeline for a wee while, to go in and help out. So I've been back about 4 weeks now, and you know, things are a bit up in the air still with when the league's going to start, etc. We've been training as usual, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it's great to be back involved.
Yeah, the headlines this week made by Roy McGregor and by this football club offering to pay some of the COVID testing costs that are going to be incurred by the lower league teams during the Betfred Cup. How big a boost is that for teams such as Brora, Elgin City and others who don't have spare thousands of pounds lying around to fund these tests?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge gesture from Roy and Ross County Football Club, and there's been a lot of talk in the press. I think Stephen Gerrard talked about it, saying, you know, maybe the bigger clubs should be stepping up, and Roy's just came out and done it. So will others come and do the same? Who knows? But you know, I'm sure, speaking all the ones associated with Brora and Elgin, who'll be deeply thankful to Roy for such a gesture.
Yeah, very much so. Stephen, you made your debut in the commentary box last week. How did you find it? Just tell us quickly.
Well, I enjoyed it, but it's not up to me, it's up to the fans who listen. But listen, I've got a tough act to follow, yourself and
how have
Roy.
your Twitter mentions
Very
been
good.
going?
I've tried to lay low over the past 3 days, but put it that way, I enjoyed it and the team won, so I've got a 100% record.
On a serious note, that was a big win for County, wasn't it? A lot of tough games in and around this time, and to get 3 points on the road down in Perth was really important.
Totally, and there were so many things to admire about the performance. All eyes were on the players. They had lost 5 goals against Celtic, albeit they'd played particularly well in long spells of the game, created lots of chances. They weren't as fluent against St Johnstone, they didn't create as many chances, but they defended their box a lot better. They were aggressive in the air, they stuck together. You know, you speak about character a lot in football. The team showed bundles of character last weekend. But it's a one-off. The football doesn't hang about and wait for you. You've done that game, you put it in the bin, you've got to move on. So replicating it and doing it again and again, and trying to replicate the traits of that victory and what actually got them that victory. If they can do that today, Stuart will hope that they can get another victory here.
Yeah. Richie, have you been impressed by County's start to the season? I want to talk about the attacking side of the game later on, but defensively, 60 goals shipped last term. Alex Jakubowski, Conor Randall coming in, Josh Reid playing as well. Have you been impressed by the way they've shored things up, or do you think there's still some room for improvement there?
I think there is still room for improvement there, but there's no doubt that they have improved. Losing the 5 goals to Celtic would have been a huge disappointment, and the manner in which they lost that goals, because when you look at the game, Celtic didn't really have to work hard for the goals, and that would have disappointed Stuart. But then, as Stephen says, they showed great character, go down to St Johnstone. They looked a lot tougher in that area, and to come away with a clean sheet would have pleased them. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for now, gents. Coming up after the break, we'll continue our build-up to this afternoon's game, and we'll get stuck into the latest Ross County team news. See you soon.
At the Virtual Learning Academy, we work with employers to develop the skills of their teams. The VLA is your route into a range of Scottish qualifications and apprenticeships. Not everyone has the same learning style, so why should all learning be the same? With online study, tutor support, a wide range of subjects and 24/7 access, the VLA offers a flexible approach to suit different learning styles. Visit vla.scot. Learn more, your way.
RCFCTV. I promised you the Ross County team news, so here it is. A single change from the side that won down in Perth last weekend. An injury-enforced absence, sadly, for Connor Randall. He's been a really strong performer at right back at the start of the season. He is out with a calf problem, so Keith Watson comes in at right back. It is a like-for-like swap, so it will be a 4-2-3-1 formation. Here's a look at how they are shaping up. Stephen, is that a big blow losing Connor Randall? He has been quite an influential performer in these first 8 games.
It has been, but I think the positive for Stuart is he can bring in an experienced defender in Keith Watson. Probably started his career as a fullback, ended up being a centre half, but I think having that experience in there, he came on last week, shored up the team, he knows the game inside out, so I think that will certainly help with regards to Cole Donaldson and even Josh Reid on the other side. Having that experience and that know-how beside you. Of course it's a blow because Connor's been one of the better players, but I think when you have a competitive squad, you're going to have to use it throughout the season. Yeah.
Richie, your thoughts on that lineup? Is that a promising shape in terms of it getting at Aberdeen and trying to penetrate what is a very, very hard team to break down?
Yeah, I think that you said it. We talked about it off air that Aberdeen will be difficult to break down, and it's what Ross County do in particularly the final third. It'll be interesting to see how County start the game. I really want to see them be aggressive, starting the front foot, much like they did against Killie when Killie came off the back of a game against the Old Firm, and try and get that early goal and really dominate the first parts of the game.
Yeah, how important is that first goal, Richie? Because you see how often Aberdeen get a lead and are then fiendishly hard to peg back. They can shut up shop, they can suffocate teams and smother them into submission.
Yeah, it could be a very difficult. There's not been many draws between the two teams in the games that they've played. I think there's 23 games, 2 draws or something like that. So if County can go out, start the game really positively, get that early goal, and then try and build from there.
Yeah, well, let's just take a look at some of the best of the action so far. 11 points on the board for County from their 8 games, 6th place in the table. Let's take a look at how they've done it. Yeah, it has been an eventful start to the campaign indeed for Ross County. Lots going on around the country in Scottish football this afternoon, so let's just remind ourselves of the results so far this weekend and the other games that are taking place today. There was, first and foremost, a big win for Livingston over St Johnstone down in West Lothian. 2-0 they prevailed. That is a really important 3 points for them. Hamilton Accies eking out a 1-1 draw with Dundee United as well. Hakeem O'Doffin pegging back the Tangerines there. Kilmarnock winning at St Mirren with Nicky Kabamba scoring the only goal again, starting to see the fruits of their promising performances. Rangers thumping Stephen Craigan's old team Motherwell, I'm afraid to say, earlier on today. 5-1, 2 penalties amongst that, and they surged their way to the top of the table. There's a cracker of a contest in Glasgow as well. Celtic have had the gauntlet thrown down to them by Rangers this afternoon. They take on Hibs, and of course we are here with the action between Ross County and Aberdeen. This then is how the Scottish Premiership table looks as we make our way through round 9 of the fixtures. Some of the teams, of course, with games in hand after the coronavirus breaches, but as things stand, this is how we are looking at the moment. Rangers at the top, 4 points clear, with Celtic, of course, 2 games in hand. They're up against Hibs today, as I said. They're in second place just now, and Hibs looking to continue their strong start to the season in third place. County dropping down to 6th after results elsewhere yesterday, and they will hope to continue their strong start to the season this afternoon. We can't quite bring you that table graphic at the moment, but I hope you'll take my word for it that that's how things are standing.
Say, great memory, great memory knowing all that. Absolutely terrific. Well done.
Someone's holding up a blackboard behind the screen. That's what it is. Stephen, if I can quickly touch on the result earlier today, you were cursing at the TV earlier on watching your old team Motherwell going down against Rangers. How difficult is it going to be to stop the Old Firm this season?
I think the gap's getting bigger, if I'm being honest. I think you have to look at all the smaller clubs in the league that, it's tough times, budgets are being cut. I think the players they have, the quality both Rangers and Celtic have, that if they turn up on the day and they deliver, it's very, very difficult. Now, we watched Celtic winning here 5-0 against Ross County. Motherwell conceded 5 again. So the challenge is for the smaller clubs to try and close that gap, to try and be more competitive. But as I say, if you get them at their best and they get some decisions that go in their favour, it can be a tough afternoon.
Yeah, thanks guys. Our build-up continues after the break, where Stephen has been chatting to the Ross County manager, Stuart Kettlewell. Don't go away.
Do you want to reduce print costs with a first-class local service? We supply award-winning print, copy and scan equipment to customers like you across the Highlands, Islands, Moray and Grampian. At Highland Copiers, we'll help you reduce your print costs, and because we're big enough to cope but small enough to care, you can be sure of our fast, efficient, fully qualified and personal service both on-site or by remote login. Support your local team, support Highland Copiers and discover true local.
Welcome back, folks. We have been keeping the bold Stephen Craigan very busy this afternoon. He's certainly earning his match fee, and he's been speaking to the Ross County manager, Stuart Kettlewell.
There you go. Stuart, just one enforced changed from the win last weekend down in Perth. Conor Randall out. Probably tells us all we need to know about the game.
Yeah, I've been looking to try and find a level of consistency in the group, in the starting 11. The guys performed really well last week, and we were happy with the 3 points in the road. But there's been a number of good performances and some good spells in games. So ideally, I don't want to tinker with it too much. If you find a formula you believe works, then obviously we need to go and try and find that level of consistency. So that's been the mindset behind the team selection today.
What's been the message this week?
I think all week we realise how good a team Aberdeen are. I think there's been a change in shape for them. There's been adjustments in how they play, probably from what we've seen in the past. You know, generally play a back four. We're now seeing that go into a back three. So we've faced that in the last couple of weeks, and there's been some interesting points that come from it, and areas where we feel we've been very successful. So we look to try and maintain that, and we look for a lot of similar principles from what we had against St Johnstone and Celtic.
Michael O'Connor, a new signing, makes the bench.
Yeah.
Another little bit of competition in the forward area.
Yeah, but we've said this, and you might not thank me for saying it. Michael's a project for us. He's somebody that's possibly had a colourful past and maybe a wee bit of immaturity, and he'll be the first one to admit that. But we've had a look at him for the last 18 months, and he looks as if he's grown as a person, as a player. We don't think he's a finished article. We think he's going to have to go through a lot of strenuous work here to try and push himself into that starting slot. But he's come in with a great frame of mind, and he's positive, and he's desperate for an opportunity. So we look at sometimes seeing those controversies and trying to turn them into a positive, and that's how we see it with Michael. And we're delighted to get him in and happy to get him on the bench today. It will be a good experience for him coming into the Scottish game for the first time.
Aberdeen played on Thursday night in Europe. Will you hope your team can exploit any mental fatigue or any kind of lack of energy this afternoon?
I think it's one of the ones, Craigs. You know the same as I do. We can speak about that one, and we often do before the game, but I've said to the players before that we can talk about that and try and make it something, and then the game totally transpires a different way. So it's so important that we go out with some great energy and a real intensity at our play to see if it is a factor. If we don't do that, we'll never know.
Stuart, all the best this afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, Stuart Kettlewell sounding quite buoyant and encouraged by his team's performances so far, Stephen. I just want to touch quickly on Michael O'Connor, new signing unveiled by the club today, striker, former Waterford Town and Linfield player. What's he all about? Do you have much insight into what he's going to bring to the table?
Well, he's physically strong. You know, he will get in about defenders. He'll want to hold the ball up. He's got a goal in him, but this is a step up in quality for him coming to the Scottish Premiership. But the fact that Stuart lost Lee Irwin, Billy Mackay was out injured last week.
Yeah.
Suddenly you look a little bit light in the forward areas. So it makes sense for Stuart to do that. He said he's a project. It's something to have to work on. They'll have to work on it, but the player will have to buy into it as well. If both can come together, then I think they've got a player.
Absolutely. Well, let's just have a quick look at how Aberdeen are lining up this afternoon as well. Of course, they played in Europe in midweek, a 1-0 defeat by Sporting Lisbon, and we reckon it will be a 3-4-3 formation for Derek McInnes's men. Only two changes, in fact, from the team that lost out in Portugal. Shea Logan and Dylan McGeoch both dropping to the bench, with Scott Wright and Niall McGinn coming in. Richie, is that a pretty formidable lineup for Aberdeen today?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of changes from the midweek game. By all accounts, it was quite a decent performance from Aberdeen. They freshened it up a little bit. It'll be interesting how McGinn gets on up against Josh Reid, another test for him. But yeah, I mean, there is quality in that team, and Niall McGinn, especially as we know, similar to kind of Chris Burke.
Yeah, exactly. Another test for Josh Reid.
Another test for him. So it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see how that matchup goes.
Brilliant. Well, the time is fast approaching. Kick-off just around the corner. We've got to skedaddle down to the commentary booth, and we'll join you from there in a few minutes' time.